Cool, so first we are going to be making an I-cord. This I-cord is going to make the top ridge of your beanie. And in the I-cord, because you know how a stitch is made up of two legs, it looks like a little V. So we're going to be picking up one leg along the I-cord, so one leg of each stitch as necessary along the I-cord. That'll form one half of your beanie. And then you grab the other leg and of the stitch of the I-cord, and that'll form the other half of your beanie. And then you knit and brioche straight down, no increases, no decreases, just a good old tube. To get your cat ears, we're gonna be sewing a straight line across each of the corners. Because of the stiffness of the I-cord and because of the natural curvature of your head, these corners will stick out anyway if you were to put that hat on. Sewing that line emphasizes and delineates the corners and therefore gives you those cat ears. Using your preferred method, cast on 3 stitches. I'm using long tail cast on here, and just in knitting, unlike with crochet, that first slip knot does count as a stitch. So just gonna be casting on another 2 stitches. Push your stitches to the other side of your needle. So the first stitch that you're going to knit into now is the one that's furthest away from your working yarn tail. This is going to mean that you have to pull your working yarn across 2 stitches to knit into that first stitch, which is going to create a tube. That is your I-cord. And then you just repeat this until your I-cord is the length that is needed. I'll write it on the screen, but basically your I-cord should be 16, 20, or 24 centimeters. Or for the Americans, that's 6.3 inches, 7.9 inches, or 9.5 inches long. And then you bind off. Oh wow, the I-cord is suddenly magically the right length. I have popped a stitch marker on my I-cord so that I pick up consistently from the same part of the I-cord. So yeah, quick refresher. Stitch is made of 2 legs, like a little V. Essentially, I'll be picking up the legs from the top side for the front half of the beanie, and then I'll be picking up the legs from the bottom side for the back half of the beanie. My testers reported that it could be a bit tight when you were picking up and working this first round. To work around this, I recommend picking up with a crochet hook and then slipping the stitches onto your knitting needle. And also when you get to the actual knitting stage, it could be helpful, so there are 2 solutions here. You could use 2 separate knitting needles, one for each half of the beanie, but honestly, I just recommend using a really long cable and using magic loop. Cool, so we are going to pick up and knit one leg of the first stitch of your I-cord. Skip one and then pick up one leg of the next stitch. You're gonna want to pick up another 16 or 19 or 22 stitches and space the stitches as you need to get this number. This means that for this front half of your beanie, you're gonna have a total of 17 or 20 or 23 stitches on your needle. Cool, so now we are going to do the back half of the beanie. You've basically now picked up one leg of the I-cord. Turn your work so that the unworked legs are now closer to you. pick up, we're going to be doing the same thing. So pick up and knit one leg of this row, skip one, pick up one leg of the next stitch. And you're going to be picking up another 16 or 19 or 22 stitches, again spacing the stitches as you need to get this number. Repeat this until the end of the I-cord, and therefore in total you now have 34 or 40 or 46 stitches on your needle. Okay, so now you have a weird caterpillar on your needles. We are now going to be joining our work in the round so that henceforth you can knit in a continuous circle. First you want to place a beginning of round marker and then slip the first stitch, so that's the last stitch you cast on, from your left hand needle to your right hand needle. And then lift the second stitch on your right needle over the first in order to place it on your left hand needle and pull your working yarn tight. Okay, so now we are going to be doing our setup round for our brioche knitting. Basically, what you want to do is for the first stitch you knit one, and then the next one you bring your yarn to the front, you slip the next stitch as if to purl, and then you bring your yarn back over to the back. In doing so, you will now have a slip stitch which has a little yarn over shawl, and then you repeat knit one, the yarn over shawl business until the end of your round. We are now going to do the brioche purl round. Basically, for the first stitch, this is the one that you knitted earlier, we're going to slip it, bring the yarn to the front, slip it like a purl stitch, bring the yarn to the back. So this is now a slip stitch with a yarn over shawl. And then the next one will be the one that you slipped previously. That one you're going to purl the yarn over shawl together with a stitch because we don't want our knitting to get hypothermia. And then you just repeat these two steps over and over until the end of your round. We are now on to the brioche knit round. The first stitch is going to be the slip stitch and the yarn over shawl. Knit those two together. It's called a brioche knit stitch. And then the next one you'll be slipping with a yarn over shawl. So bring your yarn to the front, slip purlwise, bring your yarn to the back, and then repeat these two stitches until the end of your round. It's a brioche purl round. Y'all are familiar with this at this point. I just want to show you. The last stitch on your brioche knit, you did a yarn over shawl. This one, the first one, you'll also be doing a yarn over shawl. So it's a very loop-de-loop business. But otherwise, continue as you will. Repeat brioche knit and brioche purl rounds until your work measures 24 or 28 or 32 centimeters, and for the Americans, 9.5 inches, 11 inches, or 12.5 inches. Cool, and now that your beanie is the length that is needed to be, you want to bind off using a flexible method. I tried 3, and I would recommend this one. So basically, you knit 2, and then you slip the tip of the left needle into the stitches, the 2 of them that you've just worked, and then knit the 2 of them together. Slip that stitch back onto your right needle and knit 1. Then you repeat that process again. So in this case, you would knit 1 and then knit the 2 together, slip, knit 1, etc. I just find that the knit stitch in between the 2 knit 2 togethers, that really helps to add a lot of flexibility to your cast off. I just forgot to mention, you also want to treat the yarn over shawl and the slip stitch as one stitch. So when you knit 1, just treat those 2 as one stitch. Cool, I am just finishing that bind off, pulling the thread, cutting the thread and pulling it through the final stitch, and then I'll just be weaving in all the ends to make it a bit tidier. And not gonna lie, up until now, I've just been sewing corners across the ears to make it triangle, but one of my testers asked for a bit more guidance, so this is kind of what I do. I fold it in, mark the edges, and then I sew. Final optional step is to fold the brim of the hat in to an amount that you like and sew in the edges. I recommend not doing the entire circumference of the brim, just do 2 points at the sides.